And, I screwed that up. Oh, greens. Welcome back to Season 2 of Star Wipes. I am Jeff Greenberg, and we are back for our Redditors, for our love of Reddit, along with my dear friend, Michael Kammes. Michael, it is so good to see you. So good to be back.
It's been a minute, Jeff. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute or two, and you know what? I think that's, kind of the peril of post-production of our busy lifestyles. This is an item of passion, and that struggle is it's got to fit in between the cracks. And my life has got a lot of cracks. There are 3 of them, and they're 11, 6, next week I'm going to be 7, and 3 years old. Hard to believe I can get anything done whatsoever.
Well, early birthday wishes to the middle one.
Thank you. Abby, she'll get a big kick out of it. We are back with Star Wipes, and we're going to try and juggle up and change a little bit of what we're doing, because that's what we do evidently in the sophomore season, is we change things up as they develop. Basically, our format is going to be today, we're going to do 2 Ask Anything or career questions each time. We're going to do 2 short forms or shortcuts, and Michael and I we can bear wrestle to decide what we want to call that. And then we're going to do 2 long form items with a little bit of tech at the end. I think we've said we're going to FMK. The one thing I want to do before we get started, Michael, before we mention anything else, ChatGPT, I had to nuke another, hey, all our jobs are going to go, but ChatGPT, I'm playing with it. I got to ask, do you have the Bing access yet?
No, I don't need the Bing access because I'm already paying for it directly to OpenAI. I'm already paying to use it. So no, I don't need Bing access right now.
I'm paying to use it as well. I've got in that first day for the Bing access, and somebody on Reddit said, and I love this line, finally, Microsoft found a reason for people to use Bing.
Aside from launching it to download Chrome when you get the machine.
I don't even do that. I use Chocolatey. I have to download it to get Chocolatey, which if you're on a Windows box and you've never seen Chocolatey, it's a Windows manager. It can download all those items and keep them updated, all those open source tools. Phenomenal tool. But yeah, I'm glad to be back. We're going to do a couple of things that we're starting to implement this season. Number 1, after we get this and maybe one more done, we're going to start releasing these as podcasts through Pro Video Coalition, which is where you've got a podcast. Tell us about your podcast over on PVC.
I'm currently working with Scott Simmons, who is probably the most public figure over at PVC, Pro Video Coalition, and Katie Hinson from Disney Marvel and BCPC. We have a monthly podcast called the Alan Smithee podcast. So I think some grizzled editors will get the Alan Smithee reference. It's much more technical. We talk about technical things in the industry, trends, things to look out for, interesting products and workflows. But we just haven't found a better title than Alan Smithee. So that's monthly, and that's hosted by PVC.
I think it's a great title for it. And there's so little really deep technical discussions out there that aren't driven by marketing people who just want to talk about their products. So I'm really appreciating that you guys are doing that. And each of you brings this really nice voice to the table. It's a really great piece if you haven't checked it out. Of course, you need to tell more of your friends about Star Wipes. And let's bring up that divider, because that one's fun today. Michael suggested the quotes and the .01, and that's for love for all of you out there that have got a sequence called Untitled.01.
Because you all do.
Because you all do. With the resultant file that you export called Untitled.01. Absolutely. Hey, I want to just start jumping us into content. And the one I want to start with here today is this one. So we'll do our, now we're just going to jump right over. Dropbox removing external disk support for Mac users. Basically speaking, and Michael, I'm bringing this both on screen because I'm angry with Dropbox. I was on the road somewhere Suddenly Dropbox goes, oh, we're rearranging everything. I want a slow hotel internet connection. Oh my God. I get why. I don't really get why. They said that they're taking their work and they're making it to be like the rest of cloud services, where it's going to be a cloud service icon on Apple systems. I'm just asking you out of curiosity, do you feel Dropbox at all kind of really cares about their customers?
I think they did in the beginning, and I think it's been a land grab over the past few years. I personally haven't used Dropbox in years. I felt that even with the improvements they made for people who use video, that it was just, it felt like they didn't understand the community they were serving. And so their video features never seemed to, I don't say work, but never seemed to appeal to me. So I've gone out and used other tools.
Are you using mostly Google Drive?
Google Drive, but that and Lucid Link, which is still just a fantastic tool.
It is a fantastic tool. It's just to serve files, stuff that I want to get out to people, I still use Dropbox with my favorite tip. This one's like do the right click, say Dropbox link, take off the 0 at the end and change it to a 1. Nobody ever has to see the Dropbox page. It just goes right and downloads the file. My struggle across the board with Dropbox is, instead of sitting back and saying, hey, Mac users, here's a major warning, this is coming, pick a date sometime, they're just like, nope, we're throwing the switch. God bless you. And it's just that deafness to user needs, or even Windows Professional gives you the ability to postpone stuff for weeks and weeks.
And it seems to me that if this was indeed downwind of some architectural changes that Apple was doing under the hood, that that would have been telegraphed through betas, communication on things being deprecated or not. So the fact that it was overlooked or ignored, if that's what the case was, is really surprising.
I don't know if it's surprising. Again, I just feel Dropbox. I hear Google has the similar problem, which is great. Just let users know, for God's sake, pretend we actually use your products because we pay you, not because we're forced to, as they say. All right. So we're going to do the Ask Anything threads, and I'm going to set that up in just a sec. So this section coming up is basically mostly catering to people who need career advice or people who are novice to the field. And for both those cases, if you're new to the field, we kind of push you to the Ask a Pro thread. And if you're looking for that deep career advice, we kind of push you to the career thread, because both of these things are such common, frequently repeated questions that they really drag down the subreddit. That being said, I really love the connectivity, the action that happens on both of them. And I'm starting off with this one, Michael. This is asked by Pretend Jackfruit 9113. Why are all tutorials technical? I'm a beginning video editor trying to learn the industry, and I'm summarizing this, everything is technical or very vague, like learn story. My friend, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think as someone who does a lot of technical stuff, I think it's easier to do technical than it is creative, because technical is usually yes or no, 0 or 1, click here, and it's easy to read a manual and then say, here's how I can replicate it. It makes creating content, it creates content easily.
Wait, what do you mean reading a manual? What do you mean reading a manual?
Oh, Manuel? I listen to Manuel quite a bit. But what I'm getting at is that when you look at YouTube, you're going to see a ton more videos that are technical because someone can read a book or read a checklist and be able to replicate that for a video. It's easy content. When it comes to storytelling, there's a lot more to that you can't just follow step by step and make content. So I think just in terms of numbers of videos you're going to run into, it's going to lean towards technical rather than storytelling.
I'm going to go even a step further, and I don't want to make necessarily seem lazy. I find a lot of the technical stuff, people are doing a YouTube search, and the people doing the tutorials are often cribbing the existing marketing presentations that go on there. It's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to answer. How do I get Premiere to open up stacked timelines. Super easy to Google, super easy to create a video to attract views. How to do good storytelling, how to do good creativity. It's easier to teach people how to draw than what to draw well, and what makes one artist better than another. So I feel like the answer here is really the technical stuff easy to find, the creative stuff harder to find, and there are some exceptions that I think are worth pointing out, like masterclass, attending conferences, talks and podcasts, read a blank ton of books on the subject. It's just this idea that it's not low-hanging fruit and it requires longer time. And that kind of might be the kicker there, Michael. People feel that they can do just-in-time education. Oh, I'm just going to learn how this feature works. And a lot of the really important things aren't just like, oh, I'll just learn how to use the roto brush.
No, you bring up a great point. I think another angle, in addition to that, is when you're teaching things that are technical, it's timely, right? We're showing this how to do it in Premiere.
Ooh, we froze. Hold on.
There's going to be.
Yep. We may have frozen there. That's okay. I dropped a frame. You said keep going. I don't care that it dropped. Keep going.
So there could be a tutorial on how to do this in Adobe Premiere version, blah, blah, blah. But then there's going to be a blah, blah, blah .1, right? And that allows you to do something that may be a little bit different or even the same, and it becomes timely because that's the current version. Storytelling, I don't want to say is timeless, because I think we all know that the styles of editing have morphed over the years. Jump cuts were always a bad thing unless you were trying to jar an audience. Now it's commonplace. So storytelling changes, but I believe the tech changes faster than the storytelling changes.
I agree 100%. So that's at least our thoughts on that. I hope that's useful. I want to take us to the next one. This one's from the Ask a Pro thread. I edit from Bespoke Media. I edit a podcast for someone every week. She's doing a talk show. I'll need someone to edit the videos. For each episode, we'll require the following post-edits: short clips on YouTube, landscape zoom cuts, captions, motion graphic skills to design a closing reel for your own voice. This person lives outside of Europe and America. I'm not sure what I would charge. My thoughts were $200 an episode. And then Greenysmac.
Oh, that's you.
That's me. Greenysmac says, no, base it on time. Say, I'll do the first one. I think the estimate is this many hours at 30% of whatever you think the time estimate is. So if you think it's going to take you 10 hours, triple it. Say, I think it'll take 30 hours. Promise it won't go over that. So there's decent padding. Then once you've done one, we're going to reevaluate it. And it's this idea, this flawed idea. Clients want a fixed cost with unlimited revisions. We as creators, we want a controlled, we're happy to quote how much it'll take to remodel the bathroom without forever revisions, but we need to be clear. And if we're going to do multiples of this, let's do one and get a feel. It drives me crazy, Michael, because I get all these people who are getting hired by sometimes popular vloggers, YouTubers, and they go, oh, we want you to cut our video and we're willing to pay this price. The next question should be, how long does it take you, who you know the material, to gather all the pieces and cut it now so I can evaluate how much? And that conversation, I think, never happens.
No, it certainly doesn't happen. And I think there are a lot of folks who are young and hungry, and because of that, they're willing to just jump in head first without doing these qualifying questions, without making sure that they're being taken care of. I think financially, I think the other issue is that we have to consider where this is being done, right? Because the going rate for a creative in the States may be completely different than the going rate for someone thousands of miles away.
The biggest thing I have is an issue, and it's why we have the rule. You got to, make it so somebody can figure out how much per hour is. We want this stuff to be, especially in the online forums, a livable wage. If you want the unlivable wage, go look at Fiverr. Go look at Fiverr. Don't come here. So I think those are pretty good. I think that's our nice little Ask Anything, and that's what we're going to do each time at the front. These get longer as we go.
And
so with that,
later in this episode, we'll be talking about another question that popped up on the sub. regarding what you should charge. So if you're looking to hear more of that, we'll be coming up on that.
All right, so for our first one here, Michael, short form, job interview note to self. I was taking an interview. It went several rounds. I went on round 3. I put this note up, and I love this note. Ask questions about team culture, living area suggestions, biggest challenges, how can I help in my role as an outside job, offer to example links to view, and shut the F up. I mean, Michael, this is a piece of art. Just this idea. And by the way, like the top comment in that thread is a 3-hour-long interview for an editor. Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot. Dear Lord. But I think this idea that you leave yourself these wonderful notes of support is phenomenal. I just love that. Your thoughts, my friend?
Be prepared. I'm not a Boy Scout, but I've always believed in the be prepared motto. And putting these bullet points down as things to remember when you walk in, I think is imperative. I know folks tend to think, hey, I'm personable, I'm friendly, I'm just going to wing it. No, put these down ahead of time so you know exactly what you're doing. As was mentioned earlier, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, a 3-hour interview. I've had some high-powered interviews before and high-powered meetings. Nothing has ever been 3 hours. 3 hours is like an edit session, right? Someone sitting behind you on a couch. That's 3 hours, not an interview.
The closest I've ever had with that was a dinner. I had an interview over at dinner. At least I got fed with some alcohol. By the way, that is a really scary, disarming. Do not let yourself get interviewed or do job negotiations over food, because they will ply you with the devil's brew. And then it makes you more tractable. Liquid courage, yeah. Do not do that.
I think what I like is on the right-hand side, and something that I still fall prey to is shut the F up. You'll get more information from them. If you feed them information, they're going to sit back and just let you fire hose information out, and you may step on your own toes. So yes, let them talk.
Phenomenal advice in general. Let's go to our second one. Hey, are there anyone else who's colorblind? I haven't told my clients about this. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't like the fact that their leading visual designer can't tell colors properly. Man, he is not flawed. He just can't see it. That's okay. I feel like I have a disadvantage, but still manage to make amazing progress off of this. This is a testament to client handling, number one. And then number 2, Michael, I've taught a bunch of editors how to be competent in color who have had mild color blindness, not really horrendous, how to check flesh tones on a scope, how to have at least one person just shuttle through the video just to make sure. But if you get your flesh tones on a color chart right, pretty much everything will be generally okay as long as you get exposure right.
I can speak to this because I do have color blindness, and it really has made me very self-conscious of any color work I've done. I mean, how many times have I contacted you and reached out to you about how does this look? How does that look? But the flip side to that is I find that folks tend to compensate, right? So it's that old, when one sense is dulled, others are heightened, right? And what I love about this concept here is that it's a perfect marriage of being technical and creative, right? Because when you're doing color work, most of that is creative. But when you have to use a scope to ensure that you're getting things right, that's technical. So I really love the kind of marriage of that. I will say, though, that when I am editing something and I'm hiring someone or going out to color for somebody else, I have to tell them. In fact, our mutual friend Jason was building a LUT for me for 5 things. And he kept sending me revisions, and I was like, I want this and this. And I said, Jason, I totally forgot to remind you, I have color blindness. And he actually responded and said, well, yeah, you got to tell me that, because now I can make adjustments knowing that you're not going to see a change in this, this, and this. So I don't think it's something you want to tell your clients because it's none of their business. But if you're getting the work done, that all needs to be done. But if you're working with other creatives, I think you do need to share that, because that will influence how they create content and manipulate content for you.
Interestingly, you said it's a perfect marriage of the creative, color, and technical scopes, I'm going to do a lean in Norm Holland, our dear past friend moment. I think it's the marriage of three. A third thing, just client handling. And I think this is like a beautiful crossroad of all three of these spots. I just think it's a wonderful generalized discussion along those lines.
Do you believe in telling the client that?
If I'm charging for color work, no, because I'd have somebody to QC it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would be more of a discussion that goes, hey, I'm a little deficient, but I've got QC people, and that's the end of the discussion. Or, and if it makes you uncomfortable, we can just pay for a full color pass to be done for more money. But I don't want somebody to necessarily count me out of the game because my red-green gets confused, but because I've skilled myself up with the technical acumen, I'm able to read it through scopes. I think I think it's an unnecessary, it's an overshare along those lines, unless something is really effed up. And if you've got really rough color vision, you really need to have somebody QC.
I'd agree. I don't think it would be something I would ever share, especially if I'm, doing color work is included in the price. Because if I get the work done and you like it, why muddy the waters with something like that?
Why muddy the waters? All right. And that takes us care of our two short form items or shortcuts, depending on how we feel about those words. With that being said, so here we come back. How do other freelancers count hours by Bigfoot Boogie? After 10 years of editing, 15 years of editing, 10 of it freelance, I've learned to count my hours more like a staff worker than someone who's on call, ready to switch on and off billing when I perform the work. If I'm doing a single tweak, I might bill an hour or nothing. If I do 2 to 4 hours and I can't leave my desk, because I'm waiting on stuff, no one says, hey, just wait till tomorrow to work. I'm billing a full hour day. If it's 6 hours of legit work, drop a cut and start dinner, I'm billing 8 hours. If I bill a few days in a row, round it up to 8, and I work a really hard day, meaning longer than 8, I still bill 8. I bill 8 by the 8-hour day or half day, sometimes hourly, small accounts or requests. Before we start breaking this apart, I was really stunned. I thought this whole thread was going to be about what tools do you use to track this? And instead it's how do you treat it? And I think both questions are equally valid, but this one is heavy on the how do I handle it? And I think there's some real gems in here. So let me play them off you, Michael, and you give me feedback about what you think about them, all right?
Sure.
I'm going to start with this top one from Cut and Snip Smurf, or Surf. I actually think those are both great usernames, but it's Cut and Snip Surf. I consider myself on call. If I'm booked that day and you have nothing for me to do, I'm billing you for the day. You didn't give me an opportunity to find other billable work, so unfortunately, you're paying for downtime. Michael, I legit last week had one where there was a day that canceled, and the client's like, I'm still paying you for the day. And it was like, freedom. It was like, I have that so irregularly, and it was so much fun.
That's rare hair. That's rare hair.
But what do you think about that idea that you're on call? It's not like you can slide another client in there. If they've booked, it's that hold concept we always talk about. If I'm on hold, I'm willing to give you a call before somebody else, but there's got to be some point of time, 72 hours, 48 hours, where if you don't commit, I'm still going to bill you for that day or bill you for a half day because you didn't give me anything. What do you think about that?
Totally. I think I don't think everyone is familiar with the concept of a hold. I think that's something that you get to a place in your career where you have clients that have money like that can say, look, we're gonna pay for the hold. So I don't think a lot of folks who are just starting out are aware of this. I think it's completely valid because if they're not using you for that time, you're screwed. There's nothing else you can do. So I'm completely in favor of bringing that up to your client and saying, if you want to have me, whether you use me or not, there's a cost attached to that.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at this next one here from SHWYSDRF. I don't know how to pronounce that. I work in TV. My day rate's a 10-hour minimum. If I boot up Avid, even for one small thing, that's a 10-hour day. If I work 8 hours, it's still a 10-hour day. If I work 11 hours, it's 10 hours plus an hour of overtime at my hourly rate divided by 10, a time and a half. If it's 6 day, the whole 10 hours is time and a half. I love this comment along with the what is your day rate here, because this gets back to that concept that I think the whole world should push for in this very forced freelance gig economy. I just love this idea of transparency. Clients don't want transparency for obvious reasons. Providers want transparency for simply, oh my God, I've been undercharging this long. It's an interesting battle that goes back and forth. Yeah, he like, it's not shortage rush. It's Scrody the Roadie says like $750 to $820 depending on the show. If I walk into the office, it's an automatic 10-hour day.
And I'm kind of torn because I this feedback is fantastic, but I think we're also looking at the sub is professional editors, right? So there's a little bit of stature and a little bit of experience that kind of lends itself to some of these answers.
1,000%. 1,000%.
I think when we look at some of the, shall we say, down market, as we say in the corporate world, I think there needs to be a lot of client hand-holding so they are not watching the clock and neither are you. I think there needs to be okay, this is what it's going to cost, but they're not looking at the clock saying it's about to hit 15 minutes, so they're going to bill me another hour. I think there needs to be that kind of take that stressor out of the equation.
Interestingly, I tried for about 2 years having a virtual assistant like that. And all I did was like, no, I'm not going to give it to that person because it's costing me time, despite the fact that I had booked them for like 20 hours a month. I just couldn't get over that hump. And at some point, somebody said, wait, you're investing your time? Wait, don't hold back. Wait till you go over before you realize that you need to pull back what you give them. And it took me a while. And eventually, right at the head of the pandemic, like 2 months in, I said, I got to cut that expense because it was too much for me to get zero, to have zero things going on. But I think it's an important idea that sort of clarity with your customer is vital. Otherwise, they and you don't end up being really clear about what's going on. The person who's not clear about it is invariably the person who isn't giving their client a contract, that doesn't spell this out in advance, doesn't say to them, hey, you've sent this. I want you to know, you might think this is 20 minutes of work. This is 2 days of work. Do you want me to start the 2 days or not? Because I'm worried that it's going to, take your budget up.
Question for you.
Yeah.
When we talk about, again, non-union down market, right? Do you recommend that folks who, let's say they bill for 2 hours, they're about to bill for 2 hours, but then spend an extra 15 minutes. Do you then say, well, I'm going to bill you for 2 hours, 15 minutes? Or do you round up to 2 hours, 2.5 hours? Or do you round to 3? So what would you do in that scenario if you go over?
Minimum, I'm rounding up to 3. Minimum, okay. I'm rounding up to 3. And, and we get into this real gray area here, Michael. Well, okay, that's 2 hours and 15 minutes. What about 2 hours and 10 minutes? What about 2 hours and 5 minutes? Where is that divider line? And I can't answer that for people in the whole, but I can answer it like this. And I don't want to use down market because that pinnacle of market that's cutting features, cutting episodic TV, that's such a small part of this work. I would consider social media maybe the new mid ground, if you would, or corporate. But the way I kind of look at it is, what's the rest of your day look like? If you did 2 hours and 15 minutes and you have like another 8 hours of stuff you got to plow through, you can just call that 2 hours.
Uh-huh.
If it's 2 hours and 15 minutes and you have no other work because you couldn't book it because the client, has been wishy-washy about what their needs are, I've got no problems rounding it up to 3. Just, you have to begin to develop your own sense of self. And just like you develop your own cutting style, you develop your own, I don't want to say billing style, but where you're not taking advantage of the client and they're not taking advantage of you. Invariably, where people, and I see it all the time on the subreddit, where people go and are upset and they hate the work, they're feeling taken advantage by the client, and they're feeling taken advantage because the pay doesn't match with the amount of effort that they're leaning into the work to try and get stuff done. And that's a very, very painful spot professionally when you go, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I would hope that as there is this explosion of content and the explosion of folks to craft that content, that this message starts to get out more. I think we're at kind of a crossroads right now where we have folks who don't know the media industry are now creating media, and they're hiring and finding people that also don't have a lot of experience in media. And because of that, it's, I don't want to say the blind leading the blind, as my mom used to say, but it is the fact that everyone's still finding this out for themselves. And
Absolutely.
The more we have more content, the more we have more people creating that content, hopefully this message will get out to more people.
Absolutely. Along those lines, though, I'm going to throw two of them at you. The first is Polaris. I undersell myself massively, round down my hours because I'm scared nobody will pay me better. Ha 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 ha. Little uncomfortable there, of course. And then the flip version of it is Stingray 88. I wonder what he's driving or she's driving. Billed by the day, not the hour. At my discretion, I take a small request as a half day. You know, I'm seeing the people who are more established, and it may very well be the ones who, you know, have a little bit more safety going, hey man, it's a day, half day. This hourly stuff is maybe for the plumber, maybe for the car mechanic that's doing a small job and sometimes big jobs. And, you know, with all of these blue collar post collective concepts that puts post-production as a blue collar job, none of it ever mentions that rush factor. Nobody ever calls you up and says, yeah, I'm fine. Get it to me when you get it to me. They're all across the board trying to get it. Oh, it's tomorrow. Yeah, I didn't review it, but that's not my problem. You know, I reviewed it at the last possible minute and I still need it turned around. I think that's just such a common item. And I'm not sure as much as the warning, hey, client, this is your flag. You've rushed this one. The next request that comes in as a rush, I got to add 25% because it means I'm not going to see my kids as much. I'm not going to have as much sleep. And it's that balance. It's really painful.
I like that. I like and yeah, you're taking a bath on that first project to say, I'm not going to charge you this time, but because I'm a good guy, I'm a good person, and I want to work with you, I'll waive it this time, but it'll be there next time. I think that's good for both parties.
There's no part where you go and take your car into a car dealership and find that there's a major problem. They don't call you and go, hey, before we order parts, this isn't going to be a $300, it's going to be a $2,000 expense. And then you're in some sticker shock, you know, at that moment, and you've got to, but I'm assuming that at least the corporate level, that they're a little bit more aware of sticker shock. I want to use, I want you to see this one because I love the Postmark in general. And you can see I've got even a little thing there that says great stuff. I use a parking garage model. It's based on the time I work on a project daily. 3 hours is X, 6 hours is Y, 9 hours is Z, over 9 hours is Z plus what it gets added. Z is the basic hour rate. Y, so that's up to 6 hours, is 1.25 when he modifies. X is Z divided by 2. I think that this is a really, Y is Z divided by 1.25 because it's a half day. You know, that's sort of, this is really genius and done as a math problem. Sorry for the math problems. Hey,
I got this industry so I wouldn't have to know math. Liberal arts degree.
Michael, I say this every time that I teach a compression class and I go, it's got no math. I go, who in here is bad at math? And the whole room raises their hand. I go, don't ever admit that. I want to negotiate with you if you're bad at math. Don't tell people you're bad at math. You would never go into a restaurant and say, I'm bad at reading. Can I have the picture menu? You can be okay at math. Don't say the moment that you say it, you'll only fulfill it. I love that the postmark says, this is my full day, Z, but my half day isn't half of that. It's half plus 25% because it's not like I can easily fill in somebody else in that spot. And my X is Z divided by 2. It's, if you were to figure out my hourly rate, it's double that. I think it's such a great example of the wealth of this subreddit in pricing yourself.
And how would you present this? I mean, would you put this on a hidden page on your website? Would it just be a block of text that you put at the bottom of the email that says rate card? How would you normally convey this when there is a lot of those but asterisk, right? So how would you convey that?
The postmark's really easy. It's 1, 2, 3. Here's what my prices are. And yep, the more time you book me, my price is less. If you book me for a week, I'm going to give you a 10% discount on booking me for the whole week. Plus, and that's just sensible at some level because you're rewarding somebody for hiring you more. And just as equally, I'm penalizing you for hiring me less at a certain level. And it's interesting because I'll point out to you this version, this nice little variation here from Chenstrap. If I may, I'd like to piggyback off this. I've got a new Upwork client, Bug. After the first couple of vids, there are once small tweaks, often changing a font, 3 or 4 versions. What's a fair price for me to clock it? Tweaks are a few seconds. Doesn't feel right to clock. Man, it's an hour. It's a minimum a half hour, an hour, but you build those tweaks. If there is communication, that's an email in your direction, work you have to do, another output, an email, hey, it's ready. Man, I'm not suggesting that you don't give that client great relationship. I am suggesting that you value yourself, because if you don't, sure as hell the client won't.
100%.
I think that's a great button to put on that one. Let's look at the second one. Advanced Frankenbiting tips. This one was yours, Michael, and I love this thread. For Frankenbiting is that idea of reconstructing somebody's interview or reconstructing what you need them to say in theory, honoring what they said.
Ethical editing. Yes.
Ethical editing. But I think this thread is worth this is how I first cut my teeth as an editor, pun intended. I wish I knew half of these items in here. Do you have a favorite? Or do you want to just run through the thread?
Yeah, I responded on the thread a bit when I first got into audio editing back many years ago. It blew my mind when I got a book from, I think it was Jay Rose. Jay Rose, I believe, was the author, and I believe there was a CD in the back of it. For you kids out there, that's a physical disc that has data on there or audio. And in that, you had raw dialogue, I believe, from him and his wife, and he illustrated where you could take the consonants out of words that someone else says and put them into someone else's sentence, and you wouldn't be able to tell. And when I read that, it blew my effing mind. And so that was my first foray into Frankenbiting. Back then, I was doing it in Pro Tools, mainly because you wanted sample-based editing as opposed to frame-based. Frame is just way too large to be nuanced about audio. But swapping out consonants, that's always good. But there are a ton of other rules to follow, like if you need inflection, intonation, how to get those. And I'd like to hear what ones you like, and then I'll
going to tell you the
share
one
with you an idea I have.
I'll give you my favorite, and then we'll run through this. I would often, and this is, again, it's a little different today, I would often get a transcript, a 100% correct transcript. And when we would get something and we need somebody to go down, in other words, the end of a sentence, we would search for similar parts of that word with a period. So if it's like, and it was over, I would search for ER period and just fly through the transcript looking for just that ER sound, because they would, if they ended in the middle of the sentence and it was like a little bit over, and I wanted that to be the end, I would end up
great. That's a great trick.
It was period. And I didn't contribute to this thread. Let's see if it's in there. Let's see what is in this thread, because there's some real gorgeous pieces in there.
While we're going through these,
Yeah.
for those of you who are listening in just audio, check out the show notes, because there'll be a link to this post and responses. And seriously, print them out, put it in your book. This is stuff you should reference whenever you're trying to put together a Frankenbite.
Hey, Michael, this is the non-technical training that you always wanted.
Yes.
Gazgul, who I hope's a Lord of the Rings fan. I think that's where it's from. Make your edits on the plosive words, especially if they match. Doubly if they're unvoiced plosives. T sounds are cleaner than D sounds. Triple if you've got matching same words. I love that dog, and that dinner we had, it was amazing. Frankenbite too. I love that dinner. It'll sound more natural if you do the Frankenbite on that rather than on dog and dinner. Single frame dissolves will remove half frame sounds. Michael, that's somebody who doesn't know most of the editors now can be sample based. That's okay. Single frame gaps, little dissolves. Man, I like what was right below that from Procrastoblasta. I suggest make sure you're cutting in the breath space before the plosive. And it helps to use 2 audio tracks so the tail of the A side can fade out. Man, like this whole thread is genius. Lots of good tips. Transcripts, something like script sync. If I need the bite to end on a certain word, blends in so fast. Look for the transcript words with the same type of syllables or consonants. Not that you're asking, was something I picked up with experience from Starfirex. It's okay not to be perfect. Sometimes it's good for people to say things in their own words, even if they stutter or have an odd pause. God forbid we were to sound human, Michael. God forbid.
Spicy Peanut Sauce mentioned a tool that I love, and it's for Avid, but Phrase Find and Script Sync. And that allows you to do a multitude of things, but the Phrase Find is fantastic because Phrase Find isn't searching for words, it's searching for portions of words, phonemes. And so you can search for something phonetically as opposed to the word. So if you need to find, as you mentioned, Jeff, at the end of a word, ER period, you can just type in and it will find when that occurs, and that's a lifesaver inside Media Composer.
This is the interesting convergence between AI right now and past tools. Is nobody has managed to imitate well enough. What's the group that Nexidia that does phrase find, which just finds the sounds of words.
That's what Avid bought, because because Nexidia was purchased by another company. Yeah.
Right. And all the AI tools out there are doing its best to recognize the words. But if you search and it didn't spell it the right way, you don't get it. It's a real interesting variation and difference here. And of course, I think the future, anytime that we compare 2 technologies, is always the hidden third choice, Michael, which is the blending of the 2 technologies, which is where I think always the happy medium is.
Here is my idea. Yeah. And I have some anecdotal evidence about this, which I think is, I'll share and I think you'll like, is that we're getting to a point now, you've heard that, Microsoft has a tool where it can clone your voice in 3 seconds. I've tried them. They're not all great, but what if you could take dialogue that was recorded clean, feed it to a voice cloning tool, whether it be Descript or whether it be 11 Labs, and then create...
11 Labs is right there with your mention right there.
And then use that to create the soundbite you want. Where is the ethical line between cloning your voice to say something that you would have Frankenbited versus Frankenbiting it, right? The end result is the same thing. I know of certain companies, can't name them, but they have rules for the editors that say, yeah, we'll do voice cloning, but we don't allow it for something like this, because we have to keep some kind of journalistic integrity. Now, news is different because you can't Frankenbite that at all, but there are some major studios who say, no, we will not use this to create whole new sentences. But my thought is, for the general public, why not create a model? And why not be an ethical editor and just put this Frankenbite together by using a clone to create the entire thing so it sounds more natural?
So I got 2 for you here, and I think that's where we'll wrap this long form piece. After you comment on whatever fly here. One of the great examples I used to point out to editors in this field, and this is 20-year ago information, that a group like 60 Minutes, anytime that they would cut something from somebody's interview, they would intentionally leave a jump cut in there to say to the audience, hey, audience, we cut something out. We're showing you we cut something out. And there was another group, same sort of journalistic magazine, that would use Avid's Morph Cut when it first came out. I should know exactly. Like, was it called? It's Morph Cut. Is it? Come on, what's the?
That was Adobe, right? Adobe was Morph Cut.
Adobe's Morph Cut. Avid's is called.
Oh, someone in the comments will let us know.
Oh no! I'll found it out by the time that this is posted. Somebody in the comments will make fun of me for not remembering what the hell the Avid one is called. But they would intentionally do it to hide the cut because they were trying to make people look more cohesive, more smooth in the way their dialogue, their language came together. And I think both are right. Where I think the future is real interesting, Michael, is one, getting your high-profile people with correct signed-off agreements to do voice cloning intentionally. Mm-hmm. I have the CEO. He's going to be in 110 videos this year. Let's go and shoot these pieces, but let's get his voice cloned with his permission, get him to sign off when we put things in his own words. But that way we don't have to schedule time for him to come down or her to come down. We can just put it together and make things sound great. And then the one that comes with it is we're not far. We already have really good face tracking technology. And instead of trying to replace your whole head, what if I could just shift your lips enough? Mm-hmm. Again, recorded, right? These are within our reach. These are, like, I think before the end of the year, some of these things. There was a great new 3D face tracker for After Effects that just popped out, by the way, that you could replace other items with. But what if now I could use that model for lips to put those words in that CEO's mouth that I've typed in. I could do a ADR that's perfect, or a language change, Michael, without me. Like, this is the permutations, I think, of the real practical, immediate AI coming down our path, not the, I press a button and it doesn't auto-edit.
I think the real issue we have to take in consideration here, and it's not something we'll cover today, but there is no way of thwarters in this. There is no way of ensuring that what was acquired is what is distributed. Unfortunately, there's no way to track that, and it's going to be incumbent upon editors to do ethical editing. And
it doesn't make a difference if it's ethical, Michael. What you're going to see is that you see a certain level of people who will disagree with the information because it's against their narrative, and a certain set of people who will agree with the information because it falls into their narrative. And while we can make that about politics, I got messaged by somebody recently could I provide forensic evidence on whether or not that this UFO or this thing truly happened? And I said, no, there's no way for me to conclusively do it, because even if I were to say I looked at these pixels and these pixels are unaltered and I ran it through these sort of significant tests, all somebody needs to say is, well, you just couldn't detect it. There is no, and it's that moving the goalpost BS stuff. So,
but now, I mean, if we're going to keep going down this route, now we're talking about body cams, right? On police officers, right? That was supposed to hold the police accountable, right? As well as, whoever the perpetrator was. But now that video was tampered with.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So there's arguments on both sides, and unfortunately, the promise of blockchain being able to track this and keep everyone accountable has just imploded. And that can't be used as something right now to verify the authenticity of content.
I'll tell you something that you and I should go look at NAB or one of these shows is, does somebody have something that's running a continuous watermark, an invisible watermark that's nearly impossible to remove? I don't think there are any easy answers here, but there was also not so easy answers when the printing press came about. When handwriting, forgeries happened. we're going to see it. It's going to be part of the media savvy education we're going to have. But as creators, I'm hoping it makes our job easy.
Agreed. I think we both agree on that.
All right. So I think this is a nice little button. I like the new format so far. Speaking of which, no FMK, let's talk about our next section here. Welcome back. So I thought it would be fun, instead of an FMK, to do a section here based on something new we're playing with, something new that's come under our radar. I think of it as a dopamine hit. That's why I go to Reddit to begin with. Do you have a better name than dopamine hit for it?
No, I don't. I think that's a great name.
A dope hit? Something
Dope
like
hit.
that?
I like that.
Or we're dopes? Some dope from the dopes? Something like that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
we're going from that's dope to we're dopes, and he just crossed about 70 years of pop culture terminology there.
Well, what's good becomes bad, and what's bad becomes good again. Same concept. I'm going to start off with this one, which just this week had a restriction. This is podcast.adobe.com/enhance. Basically speaking, you can throw your audio at it, and it can be really wild phone audio, and it's nearly magic. And I found out, by the way, Michael, that the restriction, I think I read it on Reddit. I didn't even ask somebody from Adobe. The restrictions here is because we were crushing Adobe servers. Because it's so good. Have you used it?
I did, and I wasn't thrilled with the results that I used on it. I mispronounced someone's name in a video that's actually going live next week, and I was trying to re-record me saying the name properly, but trying to strip it of all the characteristics of the room so it would fit in more to that, and it didn't work.
My big negative with a tool like this is there are no knobs. There's nothing you control. There is no adjustment to an isotope room tone piece. But for most people, especially, who have no idea, this, along with the Script Studio Sound, are just like magic tools. And I can't wait for this to be directly inside of Premiere or something that I can somehow batch work with. I ended up having 5 out of 31 recordings I had to do just off. And I just slung them together in a timeline. I had to do a lot of massage work to get the stuff up and down, but I am telling you flat out, I had to treat all 31 of them because it just came out so consistent and clean across the board. It was just fantastic.
I'll have to give it another shot then. With an endorsement like that, I'll have to give it another shot.
Yeah, I'll tell you offline about our common group we've talked with. They threw something at it, and you got like this handheld mic that was in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly it was clean as a bell. Their collective jaws hit the floor. Let's do our second.
The tool sounds like a beast. It really does.
It does. Just a little bit of berries of ideas out there that you threw. On that note, let's look at this one. Code Project AI, or maybe it's just codeproject.com. For those who code, if I didn't have children, I would code as a hobby. How are you using this? What does this do?
So codeproject.com is a site where folks are building tools and then offer them up. Kind of like GitHub, but not as techy. It's more, here it is. There's a product on there called AI-Server, so AI Server. And so all the tools that you've been seeing online that are wrapped into Descript or applications that upscale images, now you can download those models, and there's a rudimentary front end that you can install. So you actually are doing on your local system speech to text. You're doing what they call super resolution, which is enhancing an image to a larger resolution. There's facial recognition. There's OCR, optical character recognition. There's license plate recognition. But you can run all of this on your local machine. At this point, I believe it's Windows and then Docker. If you're running if you're running that sort of system. But for me, it's been a great experience of seeing how you can interact with different models, how to tweak those models. You can actually train these models. So it was a way for me to get my hands dirty without having to rely on what you just brought up with the Adobe and podcast, where there are no knobs. It just happens. This allows me to go in and actually tweak things. And I think it's a great way to kind of learn how AI works without paying for someone else's cloud bill. You can run it on your local system. And it's free.
That's really cool. And I love this idea that at the end of our episodes, we're going to throw in something that you may not have heard of, outlier stuff. All of it's going to be in the notes, whether it's the podcast, whether it's on YouTube. We're always going to publish our notes because we, just like you, sometimes want to skip ahead to the thing that we're most interested in. There's nothing wrong with that. And it also makes it easier to snip it out for other uses. So let's do our divider. Let's clean ourselves up and finish up for the day. So that's the end of our first episode of season 2. We do 2 things always here at the end. First, anything interesting that you've got going on in the next couple weeks, and then where people can find you. Let's do the interesting things first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First off, I'm involved with Creative Color Week. It's some free training. Hopefully this will get posted and live, although I have a feeling it won't be before Friday. Dado Valentic, he's a colorist, principal color scientist of Color Lab. It's got 5 different days, color grading with AI. Probably you guys aren't going to see it because it's Monday. I think the stuff will be posted. Some from Chat GPT for color science, some Premiere color management, office hours with me. That'll be Friday a week from now. Just neat stuff all around color, and all of it's free. You know, the idea of free material like this is always the same, which is helping promote a product, but it's also about education. It's not just about marketing. Is there a term yet, Michael, for marketing education, education or something like that?
No, I wish there was a term, because I'd put that on my business card, because that's always been a goal of mine.
So we're meducationists? Is that what we do?
Education. Is that like infotainment?
That's like edutainment.
Yeah, we got to workshop that.
We definitely got to workshop that. Speaking of workshops, coming up April 15th and 19th is Post-Production World at NAB. It's actually 2 other conferences, but both of us are speaking at this event. We'll put links in it. Hey, Michael, I'm going to tell you probably I'll have at least like 3-4 passes to give away if people are showing up in Vegas. They're not going to fly you to Vegas, but they'll give you a pass for this part of the conference. Some of this stuff is fairly expensive, like at $1,000. I'm speaking at too many sessions. How about you? And I think you're speaking at like at least 3 or 4. Give us one.
I'm teaching
not even talking the interviewing you're doing there.
Yes, okay. There's a lot of things, but yes, I'm teaching a class on remote collaboration.
Pick one. I'll pick one because we'll do one over the next couple of weeks.
I heard a lot of dropouts there. Do we want to? Sorry, Rachel.
No, it's okay. We're gonna keep the dropouts. I don't care about that.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick one. You pick one. But over the next couple of weeks, we'll have more that we're doing. So go ahead.
Just one?
Yeah, just pick 2. You can do 2.
I'll be teaching a remote collaboration solutions at Post-Production World, and I believe that's going to be on Sunday, if memory serves.
And one more, or are we alternating?
Go for it. Your turn.
Okay. The one that I'm most excited about that I've been driving for a couple years now is one on practical AI tools in post. Let me tell you, I'm going to use the words machine learning and AI tools in the first 5 minutes. And beyond that, it's like, this is 15, 20 minutes of the Adobe tools. This is 15, 20 minutes of the Resolve tools. Here are a whole bucket of tools like that podcast enhanced speech that you've never heard of that can make your life easier. Some of them are free, some of them are pay. Let's hear your number 2, my friend.
From NAB or something else that's coming up?
This could be something else that's coming up. It could be NAB too.
Okay. Well, actually, we have a new series. If you didn't know, I worked for Shift Media, shiftmedia.io. And I've always had this not dream is probably a stretch, but idea that we would do a what's in your bay, what's in your edit suite, where we do a walkthrough. I don't want to call it MTV Cribs, dating myself, but I want to see what's in an editor's space, but not just what Mac or what PC, but what are some of the tchotchkes? What are some of the knickknacks? What are the things in the office that is creative? But not just that, then talk about their process.
Who's your first?
And so,
who's your first person? Who's your first person?
Sven Papa.
Nice.
And, this guy edits 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. I mispronounce his name in the first 10 seconds of the video, which is going to lead to another video on how I would have fixed that if I could. It's not a long story, but that should be dropping on Monday. So the 13th, I think.
So probably this will go live. This will probably go live after that.
Yeah.
I'll mention my last one, and then we'll bring up our things and we'll say thank you. One more that I'm doing at NAB. I'm sitting with a couple other people. Oh, no, let's not do that one. Hey, if you're a Resolve user, I'm doing some sort of in-depth boot camp on the first day. I think it's like Saturday. I don't recall if it's, I think it's like mastering color. So it's like I got to spend in a 3-hour class probably 20 minutes doing like some of the basics of color. And then I'm just digging into some of the wild stuff that Resolve does that other tools don't. The key thing I'm trying to do across my sessions like that, Michael, where it's got real technical, they're meant to be taught seminar style, but I'm going to figure out some way to post like 500 megs of media. So people who've got the tool, got a laptop that has some battery life, they can go and like they can mouse a little bit with me. So there's that connective spirit, because that's why we go to events, is that connective spirit.
The one thing I wanted to add for the What's in Your Bay, that was all graded with Color Lab.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it was
that's
the
self-serving
entire
for me.
15-minute piece was done in Color Lab. I didn't use Lumetri. I didn't use any other color tools. I just used the built-in tools in Color Lab. And
how long did it take you?
Well, I had to learn the application, so that took a bit.
For your second episode, how long will it take you?
Oh, not real time. Maybe twice as long. I mean, it's twice as long as the running time. So 15 minutes, I could probably knock out in a half hour. It's that easy.
We'll have to talk about ways to make it even faster than that.
Please.
Color Lab. I'm evangelist. I'm a couple things with colorlab.ai, but the base concept is a tool that does an AI assist. Doesn't replace a colorist. Just gives you an assist, a leveraged way to work a lot faster on color. But you'll be hearing more about that the rest of the month, because we'll be talking about something new we're going to be doing with the subreddit in the next month or two, Michael, called Friends of the Subreddit. And we'll talk more as that comes out. Hey, let's wrap our close. My name is Jeff Greenberg. I am Film Geek everywhere. I'm except for Reddit, where I'm Greenysmac. You're welcome to message me there. Of course, I sit back. I do a lot of moderation. Sometimes moderation involves, Michael, it involves that sad thing where I've got to remove somebody's post for some reason. I'm sorry when I do it, but I'm doing it to keep the quality of conversation high.
You have an iron fist and a velvet glove, Jeff.
You're a very kind man. One of my rules with the moderator team is try not to ban anybody. Just give them the benefit of the doubt. Be a little compassionate. And you, my friend, let's hear about you.
You can track me down at michaelkammes.com. You can also track me down at 5thingsseries.com. I'm Michael Kammes just about everywhere, but on Reddit, I am I'm AV Guru 1.
Hey, and just if you're driving around and you ever see AV Guru 1, beep and shout out Michael's name.
Yeah, I've had that license plate since high school. I was very popular.
Thanks for joining us. We're back here at Our Editors with Star Wipes.